Doll therapist and CEO of the once famously successful Mundanities toy line, Freddie Driscoll, has put away his putty knife and closed his sketch pad after his company's success came to a sudden end. Compelled to share the gritty true life drama of toy making, he is here to read from his one and only book, Behind the Viewmaster. Please welcome Honorary Dr. Freddie Driscoll.
I didn't have nothing, but that would have been a good one, right? That would have been, if I had a hand buzzer that time. Dana, you're a good sport. You want a lollipop? No, thanks. It's perfectly normal. Okay, where's my small print? Hold on. That's not it. That's not it. It's fine. Here we go. All right. You ever remember some special toy you had as a kid, but none of your friends know what you're talking about? Well, chances are I'll remember it because chances are I made it. Okay, I'll explain. See, the toy market in the 1980s and 90s was brutal. I mean, it was like the Wild West back then. So it was so competitive and aggressive, and no wonder we were all doing Coke back then. And let me tell you, they never ran out of Coke at Parker Brothers. Candyland indeed. Listen. That's not in the book, but that's pretty good too, wasn't it? That's a pretty good one. So how'd I get into this nasty business? Well, at the time, I was a simple, unlicensed therapist specializing in doll therapy. Doll therapy. Doll therapy is this thing they use. Some people find it controversial, like it's for folks with Alzheimer's. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that's not what the book's about. One evening, I had an epiphany, and I realized that doll therapy wasn't going to pay the bills, so I turned to the only thing I understood better than the human psyche, toys. There were so many out there at the time. The action figure was king. Back then, you didn't just sell Batman. You sold Polar Explorer Batman and copper-plated warrior Batman and neon camo spelunker Batman, and it worked. I mean, it worked. But I thought action figures were violent, and all their points of articulation, angry expressions on their tiny plastic resin faces. I mean, it was like the Wild West in some of them toy stores. I saw an untapped market, and with what little I saved from swindling people who thought that doll therapy might help grandma with her Alzheimer's, I created a company, Mundanities. Mundanities would develop toys that weren't about action and violence. They weren't about getting all caught up in that Wild West world out there. These were in-action figures. Figures of just everyday folk, just trying to make the world a better place. There was Sit-In Sally with her little dry erase poster sign and a little plastic soapbox she could stand her on. And there was Pacifist Paul, who he didn't have a kung fu grip, but he came with a fistful of flowers. And even though miniature, those tiny plastic resin complacent faces brought peace to an otherwise unsafe place. I mean, it was like the Wild West back then. Even the soft sculpture market was ruthless. Xavier Roberts' birthmark would become famous as his cuddly soft sculptures took the world by storm. Cabbage Patch Kids. They filled a child's heart with joy and their mind with lies. See, now child psychology was all the rage back then. And with the help of a certain sexually transmitted disease pandemic, the support for sexual education was emboldened, and Mundanities was on a mission to educate. So we introduced our line of soft sculptures, Amniotic Sac Kids. Now, the Christmas morning's got a little messy, but educational, and they didn't come with a birth certificate. Some of them did come with a certain true life abnormalities, but that's what happens. That's what happens. And unfortunately, the elastic cellophane sac became the blame of several choking hazard complaints, and I'm going to move on from that, but we discontinued the line. It only lasted one Christmas. And let me tell you what, them lawyers at Mattel, they can smell blood in the water like sharks. And it didn't take long before other toy conglomerates would begin attacking mundanities. Hasbro was the first to attack us. We fought them off. They came back with another one of their copyright infringement complaints. Yeah, they had My Little Pony, but Mundanity's line of equality equines wasn't anything like My Little Pony. All Hasbros were little, and they're all cutesy. We had realistic and inclusive figures, full-figure ponies. We had Hefty Honey Belly, Lanky Lumpkins, and Gap-Toothed Gilly. These were realistic. Let me tell you, those weren't little ponies. These female ponies were realistic and true to nature, and we are proud of it. I was never prouder than, you remember, starting in December of 1984 to about February 1987, color-changing plastic was all the rage. You know, you put it in the warm water, it changes color. You bring it cold, change it back. And so we took that technology and we made an equality equine, and you dipped it in warm water and it changed colors from filly to colt and then back to filly again. And we named our gender-neutral pony Foal. Now, Foal was the only equality equine that was pronoun-free, and we are very proud of that. We convinced the judge that Hasbro was in the wrong, it was a hate crime, filed a countersuit, and we won. We would use those winnings to develop more in-action figures that would only prove to become our downfall. Lobbyists from Kenner began a smear campaign claiming that mundanities, that we were sexist. The women's lib movement was all the rage back then. Not like today. All back then it was all the rage. And to answer these complaints, we quickly produced a line of stereotype-breaking dolls. There was Nurse Nathan and Secretary Sam and Meter Man Marty, just to name a few. But that our answer only fueled their fire because there were no new professional female dolls. Now, this was a misunderstanding. See, there were professional female dolls. We had Dr. Diane, Governor Gloria, Lawyer Lucy. The thing was, we had the order go in reverse alphabetical order, so we completely overlooked the 3 female figures would be developed last. And I mean, I wanted girls and boys to play with both of these figures, but they just weren't produced, that's all. And everyone knows you can't play with a female figure until after it's developed. Now, once all 6 toys were on the market, parents of the late 80s loved us. They loved us. We rested on our laurels for years until those same children began having their own children in the early 2000s. Then they accused us of sexism. The accusation was that mundanities, we allegedly thought we could, by creating those toys, put an end to sexism. Well, of course we couldn't do that, but we were labeled sexist because we didn't understand the severe reality of the patriarchy. Meanwhile, G.I. Joe and Barbie, they're taking off. I don't get it. I don't understand it. We never claimed our toys could end sexism. It's just simply a misunderstanding. And it was the top of a downward spiral. I mean, it got bad. It was bad. It was like the Wild West. And we had budget cuts due to paying our legal team. At one point, our legal team had more members than our concept art team, and the next toys were a complete disaster. In an effort to make our figures even more realistic and relatable, each of the figures came complete with a little card and a booklet documenting their life, likes, dislikes, etc. But due to a communication with the printing, it was a printing error, the figure known as Construction Carlos was sold in stores without his documents. Now, the Kenner people and Mattel people jumped all over that. Now, listen, you got to read. You have to read the book. We were not. They labeled us a racist. It's not fair. It was a mistake, and yeah, we made some mistakes. I admit we made some mistakes, like with Janitor Jamal and Cellist Chan. They were mistakes, but it's all explained in the book. We did it in good. We were trying to make. Trying to make the world better. All the action films, the violence, and the Gojo and all that stuff, and the Transformers, and it was like the Wild West, and. Well, the wet marble that finally broke the proverbial ice, Don't Break the Ice, terrific game by the Pressman Toy Company. They never sued nobody. when we were hit by the lawsuit from Hasbro. Now, Hasbro had a problem with the way we named one of our dolls from our medical professionals line. In our defense, children had trouble reading and saying the words gastroenterologist, so naturally we simplified it and named the figure G.I. Joe. Now, we tried to fight it. Explaining GI did not stand for government issue, but we simply ran out of money fighting the court case because they had all that Mr. Potato Head money. I mean, they could litigate forever. Mr. Potato Head, yeah, oh yeah, they can make fun of the Irish, but we're racist and sexist, I guess. Okay, well, we haven't produced a toy since. I wouldn't recommend starting a toy business because it's like the Wild West out there. I'm done, Dana.